Okay, here we go. Welcome to lesson 112 in your math notebook. You will find a section titled 112. We're going to be finding and generalizing patterns today. In mathematics, it is not about add, subtract, multiply, and divide. We must be able to find patterns. So today we are going to be working on problem 1-9. Remember that we are working together. Thanks to COVID, you're at home or you're here in the classroom, and we have to learn how to think about math. That's our job this year. Think about mathematics. So we are going to communicate new ways about math, communicate what we see, communicate what we are experiencing, because there might be better ways to do math. Not just do math, but explain it to others. So here we go. Right now, you need to go to this page, and you will notice in your math notebook that you have a large area to copy down figures 2, 3, and 4. You can find this in your textbook that is your ebook. Okay, maybe you have a split screen between YouTube and your CPM textbook online. What you need to do is leave room for figure 1. You're going to copy down figure 2, which is a 3 by 4 with stuff left out. Over here, figure 3 is a 5 by 5 with stuff left out. And figure 4, which is a 7 by 6 with stuff left out. But we also need figure 5 and 6. Okay? Go ahead and take a minute, pause the video, okay, while you copy this down and figure out how to draw figure 1, 5, and 6. All of you should have figure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 drawn on your paper. And it should look something like this. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and break down how I describe the pattern. Okay? Notice this is me answering B. How is the pattern changing? This is how I saw it. You do not have to think like me, because I am not trying to create Mr. McCoy's. I am trying to create independent mathematical thinkers. If you thought differently, good for you. I hope you can explain to me how. Now, many of us saw that this is 3 wide, 5 wide, 7 wide, so we continued and we knew that this was 9 wide and this was 11 wide. Okay? When we count that back, 11, 9, 7, 5, 3, this is only 1 wide. Hopefully you saw that this is only a 1 by 3. Okay? Now, in terms of parts, right? We break this down into parts. I broke this down into the body. This is something I would call a leg. And this is something that I would call the head. Okay? What do you notice about the head?
What?
There's always one square. So in this, how is the pattern changing? I would say there's always one square, and we describe position in the upper left-hand corner. Always one square in the upper left-hand corner. Taylor?
What if we did it, if we thought about it that way too, because I did?
Well, that's fantastic. We're like-minded. There are lots of like-minded people in this world. But it's also okay to see it differently. Okay? Now, some of you noticed that going up, how did it change going up? It always grew up by 1. Notice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Always grew up by 1. How did it grow to the side? By, Gabby?
2.
It always grew by 2. Okay, it always grew by 2. But did you notice that the length of the leg was not growing by 2? Did you notice that the length of the leg was only growing by 1?
Yes.
Because the body was also growing by 1. Okay? The body was growing up by 1 and out by 1, and the leg was growing by 1. What you are responsible for in B you should have a couple sentences describing your way of how it's changing. Your way doesn't have to be my way, but I gave you some ideas. If you're at home right now, please make sure that you take a minute and describe how this is changing. This is B in your math notebook below the graph. Take a minute and write that down. Okay, all of you should have something written down for how the figure is changing, following some sort of pattern. But now we need to make a prediction on the 100th figure. See, mathematics is used to predict the future. I use your past and your GPA to predict your graduation status as an 8th grader. Because, see, if I know that you are a 4.0 kid, like many of you are, I'm guessing you're going to be pretty close to a 4.0 this year. Why? Because your past helps us predict the future. Mathematics does that. Patterns help us do that because you are a pattern. Not to make you less of an individual, I follow daily patterns. I wake up every day at 5 o'clock. I like to go to bed at 8:30. I like that pattern. That is my body's pattern. I like waking up at 5, drinking my coffee, and go to bed early at 8:30. That's just what my body does. Okay? It's okay. I'm an old man. I like to go to bed early. Okay? But how do we predict this? We have to relate it to how it's growing. And when we relate it to the figure number, it helps us figure something out. So what I want you to do with your neighbors is I want you to look at how big each figure is compared to the figure number. For example, what relationship does this leg of 2 wide have to the number 3? Compare the number 2 to the number 3. What do you notice? It's what? It's 1 more or less? The figure number is 1 more. And the leg is 1 less. Notice the relationship here. How many are there right here? There are 5. Do you notice a pattern? That's what I'm trying to say. Because see, if I know that the leg is always 1 less than the figure number, tell me, figure 100, how big is the leg?
99.
See, that's predicting the future. If we develop a pattern, we can predict the future. So what I want you to do is compare the rest of our diagram to the figure number, check it with another figure, and then apply it to the 100th figure. Ready, set, go. So let's go ahead and talk about how we see the 100th figure compared to the patterns that we are developing. Let's go ahead and use figure 6 as an example. Okay? Let's start with the head. Always 1. So in the 100th figure, how big is the head? 1. Okay, I noticed that the body is 7 in figure 6. That means it's 1 more. The body is always 1 taller than the figure number. So that means the height of the body of the 100th figure is
101.
101. And you are writing that down. The body in the 100th figure is 101 tiles tall. Now I notice in figure 6 that the body is 6 units wide. How wide is the 100th figure's body?
100 units.
It matches. It is 100 units wide. I notice that the leg is 1 less than the figure number. That means in the 100th figure, the width of the leg is 99. Very good. That is describing the parts of the 100th figure. Okay? Now, we are going to go ahead and attempt problem 1-10. Problem 1-10. Problem 1-10. Where are you, 1-10? You go to 1, 2, and then you are going to notice this tile pattern. Oh, I got to put it in our notebook. New page.
Where are we at?
Do you see down below, problem 1-10, how you notice that there's another graph? Okay, we're going to go ahead and let me grab this and put it in our notebook. Okay, growing, part 2. Notice we have figure 2. What do we need to do? Examine this tile pattern, copy it into your paper, and we're going to draw figure 1, and we're going to draw figure 5 and 6. We are focusing on finding the pattern. Focus on finding the pattern. How do you see it? If you're at home, please go ahead, take a minute, copy down figure 2, 3, and 4, labeling it, and then you're going to draw figure 1, 5, and 6. Okay, let's go ahead and wrap up this lesson. Now you might notice up here that this is growing in an L shape. Notice that figure 2 has 2 L's. Figure 3 has 1, 2, 3 L's. Notice that figure 4 has 4 L's. So you need to write down figure 5, it has a 5th L. And figure 6 has a 6th L. Notice that sometimes in patterns, nothing or something doesn't change. Notice in the beginning that it always has these 3 to begin with. In problem 1-10, all you needed to do was copy figure 2, 3, 4 and create figures 1, 5, and 6. We will work this year on describing patterns to one another. Thank you for tuning in to today's lesson. We'll stay in touch.